Welcome, 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 everyone, to another adventure into reality. I am once again with Mr. David Ellis, who has a special guest from us for us today. David, welcome to the show again.
Hello, Andrew. How are you?
I'm doing
Today, today we have a guest. From a previous show, we actually introduced the ecstatic dances of LA, and we had a person call in, and we thought that person needed a little bit more exposure because she gave us something in that broadcast. And today we have Tatiana Johnson. Tatiana, say hello to everyone.
Hey everyone. Wait, where did you get Johnson from?
Isn't that Johnson?
no.
It's not, but that is the name I was born with, but I never sent that to you.
Oh, okay. So, so Tatiana, tell us
Zamir.
about
Zamir.
Zamir. Tell me, how are you?
Look at you, psychic. I'm good. I'm good.
And how you been?
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. For the most part. Yeah, I quarantine time's actually been, sometimes I have a second where I feel bad about saying this, but it's kind of been a sweet time for me.
Oh, it's been a
Um,
sweet time for me as well.
yeah,
And every
yeah.
introvert on the planet, really.
And I feel like I've been becoming more introverted as time goes on. So I'm like, not much has changed for me. I'm like, I like to work at home. I like to be by myself a lot. Um, obviously some things have changed, but yeah, just taking advantage of the sweet parts of it.
So Tatiana, tell us about yourself. Tell us your background and what you're about.
Um, hmm, what am I about? I don't, yeah, I'll start with the basic stuff. I mean, I'm a dance instructor, I'm an artist, a writer, choreographer. I teach dance classes, really fun dance classes. Um, and I facilitate holistic healing arts retreats
Oh,
around the world.
mhm.
And yeah, what am I about? It's a good question. I mean, I feel like cultivating a relationship with joy is a big part of something that's on my mind a lot. Um, I'm about taking good care of myself so that I can do my work the best that I can do.
So
Um,
one of the things I like to do is to find out what made you you. Tell us
mm,
about your journey that got you here, because a lot of
mm,
people connect to people's journeys and what
yeah.
it took to find the confidence and faith in yourself to
Mm,
remain relevant.
yeah. So, um, both my mother and father were alcoholics and drug addicts. My mother was very emotionally abusive, and my father's been in prison most of my life. So I came out of dealing with a lot, and a lot of those experiences really lowered my sense of self, my confidence. It's hard to believe in yourself and go for what you believe you're here to do when you're kind of like have that background, have that experience. So a lot of my journey has really been focused on healing. Like I've invested so much of my time and my money and resources on healing myself so that I can be the best version of myself. And yeah, I ended up graduating from UCLA as a dance major, and then I went to holistic healing arts. I went to like a mind body school, Institute of Psychostructural Balancing, that just kind of opened my healing arts brain and practice. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm starting to ramble, but
What was the
I
one
No,
never.
what was the one thing in your journey that
Mm.
tipped the scales of you choosing to stay on this path?
On the path of just being being an artist, being a healer, whatever the path is. I guess I'm asking a question.
Was there
What
some mystical experience or something that just showed you that this is exactly what you wanted to do?
I think one of the first times I remember having that very profoundly was when I produced my first dance theater show, I had known for a few years that it was something that I needed to do. I kept having visions of doing a one-woman show, and I ended up doing kind of a combination of some solo work and then group choreography that I put together. And while I had basic concerns and fears that many artists do, like, is this going to be any good? Is anyone going to like this? I remember just in the process of creating, I experienced more joy than I've ever had in my life. And I remember being so happy and feeling so uplifted and being a better friend, a better wife, a better daughter. Like, I remember thinking to myself, you know what, if no one likes this, if nothing else, this is medicine for me. And I have to always, do this. I have to always nurture this part of my purpose and why I'm here.
So it profoundly grounded you into this choice. It was right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Tatiana, how do you meld the performing arts with your healing arts?
That's a good question. I came up with this title like a year ago, a healing arts conductor, because I feel like everything I do is connected to art and healing, even if it's not so direct. Like, I wouldn't say like that when I invite people to my dance shows, they're not expecting to have like a healing experience. They're expecting to be entertained, right? But so many times the feedback I get is like, wow, that was really healing for me, or this story awakened something in me, or made me change or move differently in the world. I think so there's three main things that I'm doing right now. I think I'll just go through each one to try to answer that question. So just through my dance classes, I mean, I think movement is just innately healing, especially for people who enjoy it. So obviously there's ways you can release, stress and endorphins, and you just feel good. So I think there's a natural, like, just elevation and joy that comes with that. And then as far as my performance art, it usually has to do with some issue that I'm working through, whether it's like personal or a universal concept. But I tend to, like, for the most part, have uplifting endings or joyful endings. Like there's the issue, and then there's the transformation, and then there's some kind of solution. There's some kind of beauty in the end. So I guess the theme just comes up in a lot of my work. The retreats and stuff, that happens naturally too. That's more straightforward. It's like we're here to connect deeper to ourselves, to each other, to really have an embodied practice, to tap into the wisdom of our bodies. So it's just the theme of art and healing, like utilizing the body as a vehicle to tap into our highest self and our highest destiny, and then healing. Those two things seem to be wrapped up in all that I do.
How does the spoken word as its own art form synchronize with all that you do?
Well, a lot of my performance work is a combination of movement and spoken word, or movement and my writing. Because sometimes I do storytelling or, different kinds of writing. So oftentimes when I'm performing, it's infused in my performance. It's whether I like have a track that I recorded myself doing a poem and then I choreograph a dance to it, or sometimes a lot of my solo work is like speaking with movement combined while I'm telling a story or while I'm sharing a poem. So yeah, it wasn't always like that. I mean, when I was a little girl, I just wrote because I loved writing, and it was a way that I was able to process my feelings and my emotions and just express myself. It was just something I enjoyed doing. And then later, when I started my studies, I went to SMC before I graduated, transferred to UCLA. And just as I was starting to put work out, there was this organic process of combining my words with movement.
So Tatiana, do you have any spoken word products out there?
Products, like a place where people can hear my work?
Yeah, like that.
No, I do not.
No,
I have a couple of there's a couple of things of me on YouTube. There's some of my work on there, so people could get a little bit of a sense of what I'm like. The two examples I shared, there's a group choreography I have on YouTube that's done to a spoken word piece I wrote, and a solo piece. So there's a couple things on there. And I actually, the piece that I shared on the call that we were on a couple weeks ago, where I called in as a caller, I have that on my Instagram. So there's like some random places people can get a little taste.
Do you intend to become a spoken word artist professionally? Because you mentioned that somebody close to you was a sound tech, so
Pow.
I'm just
Exactly.
out there.
I mean, sure. I mean, I guess my intention is to just be a professional artist, period. And really all my gifts come together organically. So while sometimes there's opportunities where I share just one or the other, like, oh, this is a straight dance performance, or this is straight, poetry performance. Yeah, I mean, that is part of my goal. I would like to be a professional artist and
Well, we've seen some of your work. It's at that level. It definitely is at that level. So
thank you.
You got to put it out there. Today, I have asked Tatiana to share with us some spoken word. We're going to be doing that a little later on, but we're still in the getting to know you phase. So where do you operate from and what are the events? Tell us about the retreats that you facilitate.
Sorry, I was thinking about something you said a minute ago about the spoken word stuff. You're like, well, you're at that level. And I feel like the biggest test that I have to overcome is just believing in myself, right? Like so many of us, because you say that, but all I can hear is the voices in my head. That's like, yeah, some of it is pretty good, but there's so much work that it needs to develop. So then that's that part that gets me afraid to actually really go for it. Even though I know it's bullshit. And I know, like, okay,
let me just help you out with that. I support the arts 100%. If there's theater happening, David will be there. Okay.
Just David was a professional dancer for a long time too.
That's right.
Did you just out me?
Yes, I outed you.
Did you just out me? Really? Anyway, as I was saying, I go to theater, I go to dance performances. It doesn't matter what. I even go to pantomimes. Okay, I really, and there's a lot of spoken word which is not very authentic and organic out there. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that is just being produced as a matter of
kind of mimicking like the art form.
Gangsta spoken word.
There is that. Some of it is authentic. Some of it is authentic, right? But what we saw last week was a very authentic and organic piece. And I think you should probably put yourself out there for the very simple reason that it affected quite a lot of our audience. We got feedback and everybody was quite touched by the piece that you shared with us. So,
okay,
getting back to the retreats.
Yes, getting back to your next question. Yeah, I actually just started, well, a few years ago, I was hired by an organization called the Joyful Heart Foundation, and they provide holistic healing arts retreats for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault and child abuse. And they hired me as one of their main facilitators and movement therapists. So I had a lot of working with them on just, how to put a retreat together and learning about the process. And I was just always really inspired to do my own. Like I had other thoughts about what I would want my retreat to look like. So unfortunately, that kind of came to an end. And it's one of those things where, it's like an unfortunate thing, but then it birthed something new. So then that was my opportunity to be like, well, you're not working with them anymore. So why don't you do your own? It's time. And I had this vision. Well, I was supposed to go to Indonesia. I was supposed to go to Bali with a friend. And then in the same month that we were planning to go, one of my friends was doing like a movement retreat. And I was like, oh, I'll go support her retreat. And then I heard a voice that was like, that's where your first retreat is going to be. So while I was there, I had like one eye open. I was like, in the experience, but also kind of like searching around like, oh, I would want to take people there. I'd want to do this with them. And then, a year later, I made it happen. And it was a beautiful experience. It's a holistic healing arts retreat. So it's a combination of just different ways to take care of all of our bodies, right? emotional, intellectual, spiritual, physical. Every day there's a physical practice. There's daily yoga, daily dance classes, movement therapy sessions, different ways for people to release stress and trauma in their body and really embody their strengths and change their story cellularly, not just intellectually. So usually I have some guest facilitators, so they all kind of bring their own gifts. All their workshops are different and unique depending on who my guests are and what they're offering. But it's definitely a mind, body, spirit nurturing experience.
Okay, so Tatiana, what dance forms do you do? I'm curious because I'm going to ask that question.
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades a little bit. I mean, I really liked studying so many things. I would say I really enjoy modern and contemporary hip hop, West African dance hall, different variations of Afro diasporic dance has been my main calling, and like modern contemporary. But I have training ballet growing up and things. So yeah, I did a little bit of everything. But I would say my work is a fusion of like contemporary, modern, and West African or Afro diasporic dance. Yeah.
Okay, so
and my dance class is
fusion.
A really fun, just booty shaking, like West African hip hop, dance hall, Afrobeat, like we just get down. So
okay, so I want you to comment on dance as a healing form, as a healing dance, and expressive dance as a healing form.
What's the question?
I want you to comment on dancing.
Dance
movement.
as a healing form.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that so much attention is given to like, processing and talk therapy, which is so important, and it definitely has its place, but the body is its own entity. The body has so much experience. We hold so much of I think all of our experiences in our body. Some are more sensitive than others, but oftentimes I think that healing is not done, that processing is not done, that somatic healing, where we get to really, like some of the exercises I do are to help us release stress and trauma in the actual body, right? And so, like, I've had many people say, wow, I've talked about this issue so many times, I've gotten so much help on it, but it was just a whole nother experience to be able to let my body really tell that story, to really release it on a physical, cellular level. And yeah, I mean, I think that's so important. I think it's such an important part of our healing journey. It's like people have all kinds of pain and injuries, and oftentimes they don't know how much that the pain that they're experiencing is connected to an emotional experience that they're having, right? And so they go hand in hand. They both need to be nurtured. They both, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
You've really hit the nail on the healing head there. The body stores all the traumas. And so many people do inner work for decades, but never get to the fact that it's still stuck in the body. And that's why really advanced healing techniques like cranial sacral therapy, myofascial release, and dance have the capacity to get the last bit of that frequency that's stuck in the central nervous system.
Andrew, I absolutely love the way you express your little waddle act. It's like you hit the nail on the healing head.
Yep.
Like, okay, so
I'm full of one-liners, David. I've learned to tagline.
It's like you hit the nail on the healing head. Tatiana, it's actually interesting to me because somatic experiencing, EMDR, whenever people are going through or releasing something, the body shakes as a result of it, okay? And one of the things that really intrigued me about ecstatic dance as an example, right, is the expression when people are free to express. And when I say express, I don't mean express in the sense that, oh, I am showing myself. Express as in expressing stuff out of themselves. What's in comes out. And there is a sort of a cathartic release when people are dancing and they go back and that blood pressure comes down and you are free and you feel free. Okay. Yeah. So you're a performance artist. So
and I just want to add to that, like, I feel like sometimes I always say like working out, for example, like getting to a class is sometimes the hardest part of the workout, right? It's like overcoming your mind if you're like not in the mood. But people always say they feel better, right? If you were not feeling well, then you felt better after you moved. And if you were feeling good, you feel even better than you did before. So that right there, I think, is a testimony to like the healing power of movement for those that, enjoy to do it.
Something else.
Not letting you ask your next question. Oh,
something else. Dance is ancient in our histories and is embedded into our DNA. When we were still caveman around the fire, dance and songs were the first forms of entertainment, release, artistic expressions. So it's primal for absolutely everyone. And when you can touch into that primalness, there's a whole different roar inside your heart, or refined as artistic dancing. That is the dainty, specialized movements that show control, yet a softness behind it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are some of your experiences as a dancer that are non-physical?
Oh, what are some of my experiences as a dancer that are non-physical? I mean, the main one that comes to me, I guess, is the story I already shared, was that like in the process of creating, even when I wasn't creating, I felt like I was in my joy and in my highest purpose. And I felt my best. That was the most profound, I feel like, experience I've had, where it was in relation to movement, but I wasn't moving. Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of different dance companies. I mean, definitely, I think of environment matters. If I was I've had experiences where I really enjoyed what the work we were doing, and I really felt in alignment with my purpose and in alignment with why I was here. And at the same time, maybe the environment wasn't that healthy. So then that I had to move myself out of those experiences. But I don't know, that's an interesting question. I'll have to think about that some more.
Okay. The next question I suppose I have to ask has to do with the elements of dancing. So here's the thing. We know that music is healing, okay?
Yeah, 100%.
And it speaks to a certain part of the soul, so to speak. For instance, I'm going to go off track here and say, like listening to ABBA's Chiquitita, not that I'm an ABBA fan. I just outed myself. Right. Mommy, that was a wonderful thing. Right.
David is dancing to Enya in the other room right now.
Do it. Yes.
So, the ability for music to connect to people and so on. So you've been a dancer, you've been a performance artist and so on. Do you use music in your spoken word? First question.
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely have a few pieces where music, spoken word, and movement are all intertwining. That's very common in a lot of my pieces.
Okay, so when's your next performance?
Well,
in 5 minutes.
Right. There you go. So I'm a part of this collective called the Dancing Diaspora Collective, and it's a collective that's filled with artists and healers and activists and all kinds of amazing people. And we put on various kinds of programming for the community. And one of the things that we offer is the free / donation-based dance festival every summer. Well, it started last summer and it was so amazing. So they had dance classes all day and then we have performances at night. Our festival is supposed to be this June. And it looks like we're still going to do it. It's just going to be online. We're going to do some version of it. So if people want to see me perform in that or anything that's coming up, then if they want to stay in touch through my newsletter is probably the best way. Through my website, Tatiana Zamir.
And everybody that's listening on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, or any other way that you're listening, and you want to come and join our live show, this is where we will be taking calls and questions from. Robert will be putting up some information in just a second that shows you how to join the Zoom call. So everyone, please hit like and share. the meeting ID number, go to zoom.us. Meeting number is 911-001-1974. And the phone number's on the right side as if you are in a different country and want to call in with your phone, listen to the show, as well as interact with everyone here. We use this Zoom room as the main focus because we are simulcasting over a bunch of stations. If you want to be a caller and you want to have some of your questions answered, please enter the Zoom room now. All right, everyone, let's get into a little bit more of the deeper subjects. We've done dance, we've done healing, we've talked in spoken word. Tatiana, what keeps helping you next level yourself?
I have an inner hunger to do that. I don't know what else to say, but I feel compelled. I mean, almost every day I think about what am I doing? What do I want to do next? How am I going to make that happen? So there's strong callings that I have within, and I'm not one to ignore them. You know, it may take me a while to manifest some of them sometimes, especially the ones that are harder for me to make happen, usually just because of my own confidence. But for the most part, yeah, that drive, that inner pull, I'm like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do that now. And for the most part, I'm pretty good about making stuff happen. Sometimes almost like too quickly. People are like, what? You just produced a show in 2 months, you know, or like you just had a thought to do a retreat and then you just put it together in, you know, a few months. So yeah, I don't know.
So basically,
drives me.
So basically, sometimes you run with it and sometimes you don't.
Yeah, it's true.
So what's the difference?
What's the difference? Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like with a lot of things, I run with it. I think when it comes to sharing my art and really investing in myself as an artist, I have times where I go in and out of that. When I'm in a space where somehow I've convinced myself that this is okay to do and I have an idea, I make it happen. But there's just a lot of times where I make other things more of a priority. And I'm still trying to figure out, you know, what that's about. There's a part of me that sometimes thinks I have this like false belief that, you know, more direct healing work is more important than art, even though I know and have had so much proof that art can be just as healing as, you know, healing work that is more direct, if that makes sense. So yeah, something I'm still figuring out, but I'm grateful that at least I put some stuff out into the world to make some things happen, even though sometimes I wish to speed that up a bit.
Understood.
Oh, I fully understand it. Sometimes you can't help the speed that your brain wants to work, but the slowness of the world.
Yes. Or the slowness of me. Like, I don't know.
Or the incompetence of others who can't understand your brilliant ideas.
You know what? That's a big one.
Yes.
Because that's a big part of what holds me back too. It's like I let that kind of stuff get to me. So everyone thrives more when they feel more supported and when they feel seen.
Exactly. Now, David and I have this ongoing conversation about throwing the ball, and it never hits a person. It goes right through them. So it's always playing with the ball by yourself. You're always throwing the ball. And every now and then you get a conversation where the ball comes back.
And you're surprised.
Yeah. It hits you right in the face. Oh no, someone threw back a ball.
No, we need to discuss this in an open forum. How many of you guys in the chat room have ideas about the world, about esoterics and stuff, and you discuss them with people and you get the blank stare? The blank stare, like, I don't understand. I don't know what you're talking about. The ball does not come back, right? And then you've been like that for a few years where the ball hasn't come back, and then all of a sudden you meet someone and then the ball comes back and you're like, what just happened to my life? What just happened to my life? Okay, so I assume that in performance arts is the same. You have an idea, you have a concept, you understand something, and you want to get it out there. You want to commiserate with someone else over that concept, but then it just isn't there. So Tatiana, you've been producing a lot of stuff. Who are the people who are supporting you with regard to this stuff?
Well, my mother is a big supporter of my work. She finds ways to help me on the financial end, which is really important. Obviously, a lot of producing a show takes funding. And so she's plugged into certain organizations that she works with where she's able to help me pay for the artists that I'm hiring. So she's a huge supporter. My friends are huge supporters of my work. My community, you know, I've grown up in LA and I've nurtured a community here. My community supports me. It'd be a lot harder to produce a show and sell tickets if no one bought them. So friends and family and the community that I've built, whether it's through my dance classes, whether it's through the healing work I do, whether it's through a lot of personal stuff. I love to host stuff. Ever since I was young, I've brought people into my home for something, whether it's like someone's giving a talk or we're having a prayer gathering or, you know, so yeah.
Okay. All right, Andrew, you want to hear some of her work right now?
So why don't you just, do you have already picked out what you want to do?
Yeah, I have a couple of short poems that I put together or that I have ready to share.
Would you prefer to do them in one frequency or break in between and talk about them as a performance style?
I don't have a preference.
Okay,
I have a preference.
Okay.
We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about them. We're going to do the surgery afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, they're pretty short. So, you know, yeah, if we don't have much to say, then I'll just keep going.
Sure.
All right. This first one is called Move Me. Stretch me like silk honey into the corners of God's mouth. We speak in rhythm, awakening every cell that forgot how to breathe. Play salt and pepper, womb me, cootie, Gregory Porter, even silence will do. Beat that drum, clap your hands. Doesn't take much to move this body into a trance of bliss. Every curve smiling, forgetting sadness even exists. Dancing is when I feel closest to spirit. Listen closely, and you will hear answers to my prayers circulating in my torso as hips figure 8 and love undulates through my fingertips.
Okay, that was both sensual, sexy, informative, freeing. Excellent. Excellent. All right, we're doing.
You know what? Can I keep your number because you're a good cheerleader? I feel like every time I do something, like David, I'm doing this thing. You'll be like, yes, you're doing great.
How old was that piece?
This piece is like, I think 2 or 3 years old.
Good. I like finding out how old the inspiration is because some of these inspirations are timeless.
You see, a lot of people don't know my first degree was in humanities. That's drama and theater arts, poetry, and so on. So I'm analyzing your poetry on the fly, technically and otherwise. All right, so
all right.
Yeah, so that gets a pass for sure. Let's go on. Let's keep it going. Keep it going.
All right, let's keep it going. This one's called I'm Hungry, Mama. The women in you have suffocated the morning in me. You spit me out like old milk and wonder why my bones are weak. Flickering light in my feet, stepping in your hollow. You are God of shattered glass, cutting me into beautiful. All I wanted was afternoon smile, baked chicken and roasted vegetables, like you made for him. Why do all these strange men keep eating from my plate? When I forget I am made of light, I curse the devil in my head. Drinking poison has served me into a sorrow I cling to. Take me into your whisper. Pray our path into bloom. Let me curve towards the sun in your skin, arms wrapped around our wounds, with promise on our lips, flowing together like blades of grass that bend.
Interesting. The connection between the mother and the daughter. You want to speak about that?
Feeding from your plate. I really like that line.
Yeah, it's my favorite one too. Do I want to speak about that connection between my mother and my daughter, or just the connection between?
Generally speaking, and if you
we got our first crier.
Aw. Hopefully I'll bring you back up after those tears. But yeah, I mean, my relationship with my mother has been very, very rough, very tumultuous for most of my life. And I'll just say, long story short, there came a point where I had to create some fierce boundaries because of the way she treated me, and I had to kind of start distancing myself. And through that distancing, and my mother and I both were doing some really intense prayer and meditation. And at one point, she had a vision. It was like she saw our history, like she saw who she was to me for the first time. She saw the monster of the mother that she had been. And I remember the day where she apologized to me for the first time. I think I was like 26 or something. The first time that she ever apologized to me for everything that she did. And from there, it just, the floodgates opened and she had all this memory, and she just stopped being so defensive and stopped saying the I'm sorry, but, right? The sorry that never really counts. But it was like the true sorry, like, that was fucked up. My bad. I want to be better. And so we've been on a path of healing, and my mom is like a whole nother person today, like a whole nother woman. It's something I'm still adjusting to because it's almost unbelievable. I don't know too many stories like mine. I know a lot of people who either have really hard relationships with their mother, or for the most part, it's pretty good. I mean, maybe I'm sure there's some in between, but at least the people I'm surrounded by. So yeah, it's a big part of my work. It's a topic that comes up a lot, whether it's in, like, I did a healing mother wound workshop. It usually some version of our story is told through my art, because it's a big part of my journey, and it's an important one. It's a powerful one, and it's one that tends to impact people a lot. So yeah.
Yes, a lot of people don't understand the connection between mother and child. Therapeutically speaking, is what we call an essential connection. And when essential connection becomes damaged, it's a struggle. Healing is a struggle because you don't have a reference point for the healing. And what I mean by a reference point is like when you're a child and you stump your toe or whatever, and your mother puts a hand on that point, you learn something in the exchange, okay? And when there's not a lot of that happening and there's a lot of disrespect, there's a disconnection, and built onto your nervous system is a defense mechanism which persists. But the defense mechanism is what actually will make your life less than pleasant. Okay. But anyway, continue. I'm drinking this in.
Okay. This one's really short. This is called Dear Inner Child. You are precious, worthy, and strong. You built a mansion out of rubble, too laborious for a child so young. I admire you, but can no longer allow your injuries to restrict how I move in the world. Sincerely, the adult version of you.
I really like that because there's so many advanced healing techniques of the adult talking to the inner child to stop the temper tantrum of control.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question to the chat room? Everybody who's in the chat, everybody on Facebook, everybody on YouTube. How many of you would like, I was about to say CD, that hurt me so badly. How many of you would like to see a compilation of Tatiana's works from what you've heard so far? Thumbs up for those who would, and thumbs up, thumbs down for those who wouldn't. And oh, we have yeses across the board. All right, so it's not just David being a cheerleader. It seems like I am not the only one. Continue, please.
Okay.
Let us have it.
All right. I think this is one of the last ones I have, and although we could keep going if you want. So this one's called No More Playing Small. Be careful with your words. They can tangle your hopes or unleash your liberation. Sign says change ahead, but you keep telling that same story and wonder why everybody believe you. There ain't enough time. Nobody loves me. No more good men left. I'm too fat, too old, always broke. You are not your history. The needle in your mother's arm, cuffs around your daddy's wrist. the divorce, giving up too soon, medicating your sorrows to survive another day. You are not the sum of your enemies' critique or the hand-me-downs that simply don't fit the woman you are becoming. You are sunrise, flower in bloom, a new day, warm pot of hibiscus dandelion tea, stillness in the night, river of peace, dancing prayer into bones, genuine hugs, a quiet knowing. Don't look back, sister. Your time is now. The future is begging you to show up differently. No more excuses, no more stalling or side projects keeping you busy, creating illusions of purpose, molding your dreams into a sculpture of worry. Take a deep breath, darling. Put on your crystal crown. Dance in your velvet gown. Be gentle with your heart. Surrender to the magic. Let it take you away and sprinkle you through hidden galaxies of promise.
Okay, we need to take a pause here. We do. That one affected me.
Yeah.
So
David is gushing glitter out of his glitter glands right now.
let's start from the beginning. What computer are you talking to us on?
What computer am I talking to you on? A MacBook Pro?
Okay. What microphone are you using?
The microphone that's built into the computer.
Oh, okay.
No, the headset one. It automatically takes over. The one in your dangler.
Oh, what is this piece?
No,
Yeah.
the dangler is the microphone right now.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, so theoretically, if you were to record what just happened for the last 20 to 30 minutes, you could theoretically have a product.
Or pass your sound engineer's quality control.
Right.
Right. I'm just talking theoretically, just putting that out there.
Yep. I got you.
Tatiana, I think you're ready, you know. I think you are. All things, all stuff aside. So let me give you the critical critique and everything else. Number one, the work is powerful, period. And there's nobody who's going to dispute it, absolutely. Right?
No, there's always one idiot on YouTube
I
that just
mean,
like shit.
yeah.
Come on,
I try
don't
not
worry
to play
about them.
devil's advocate, but yeah, there's always people who don't like people's work. But I'm gonna go with you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
don't
go
worry about them.
I'm talking about real people. Trolls. We're not talking about trolls.
Okay.
They're just jealous.
We're talking about human beings. All right, I'm talking about real people. All right, so I'm thinking the work is powerful. It gets to where, and it's authentic, and that's the difference. Okay, because I can write a bunch of stuff that is out of my experience, but stuff that is in your experience comes across completely different, and a lot of people don't understand that. Okay, have you guys ever been to a dance performance and seen a dancer who does not want to be there? They're technically perfect, but something is missing. So tell me about the spirit that's in the performance. And you can tell when a dancer does not want to be there. They may be technically doing the movements correct. They're in sync, but something is missing. And I always wondered about that. So Tatiana, you want to speak to that for us?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think when I feel that way, I think that I feel like people are not embodied in what they're doing. I notice for me, I'm really pulled into anyone's work when they're really embodied and really in and believe, like mind, body, heart, soul, like when all of them is present in their work, even if I'm not that into it, I'm in all of it because I'm like, look at them embodied. Look at them just in their purpose, in their joy, or maybe it's not joyful, but just, so for me, that's something I notice when I'm kind of checking out of a performance. Like you said, the technique might be there. They may have their leg all the way up here, but maybe you don't feel anything, or it feels like they're disconnected from their art. They might have created something because they saw that that's what people are doing and that looks cool. But like you said, maybe it's not authentic, or different folks for different strokes for different folks. Like, there's just obviously different things are going to resonate with different people. So things that I like and don't like. It's going to be different for others. But
So you spoke a lot about you shared a lot about your story, your backstory.
mhm.
How did your journey to who you are now as an artist come from where you came from? How did that happen? How did
How
that
did it
progress?
happen? Okay, so my grandmother, who played a really big role in loving me up since I was little, and I think saved me in a lot of ways. She was an actress herself. Her name is Lisa Jonti, but her acting name was Lisa Montel. And
Oh,
I'm
really?
and I
Grandma was a performer.
Oh, and I'm saying her name because her photos are worth looking up on the internet. Grandma was fine, like one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Lisa Montel,
This,
Robert, could you
Montel.
find some pictures of her and put her up?
So grandma was not only looking good, but grandma was an artist. She was an actress. She loved dancing. She was always, so she made art a priority in our life. She used to take me to dance shows, to operas, to ballets, to, she put me into dance classes, into, martial arts when I was little. So she really was the one that infused the arts into my life. And then
Is her name also Lisa Jonti?
Yes, her name is also Lisa Jonti.
Okay.
But I think you'll find the acting photos I'm talking about under Lisa Montel, Montell.
as I rub my hands waiting for this.
I hope am I
With
saying
oil,
that?
David?
Montel. Yeah, that's it. Lisa Montel.
It's lotion, okay? It's lotion.
Our last comedy show, David got outed for putting oil on his hands.
Oh no.
It was really quite funny.
So,
It
yeah,
was
and
completely benign.
It was lotion.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Interrupting y'all joke. No, but I also just going back to what we were talking about too with the mind body.
Oh, god damn.
Yeah. Hey, Granny.
Wowzers.
That's my grandma.
Damn.
So yeah, what I also answering the question of how I got into it, but when I was like in junior high, speaking of that mind body connection, I think because I was still in such a sad place in my life as a child, that impacted how I moved. So I used to walk with a slouch and, protecting my heart, my chest concaved in. And I remember my grandma just being like, we need to fix your posture. So she put me in a ballet again after years of taking a break from dance. So she really put me in to just help me get a physical alignment, but really what it also did was it gave me a spiritual alignment because it like physically opened up my body, but it also like spiritually opened up my heart to connect to a big part of why I'm here, which is to be in my body and to dance.
And so you were escaping from your present family situation. Was it also an escape?
Yeah, sure. For sure.
Mm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the journey from point A to Tatiana's point B, right? Was it a difficult and arduous one, or was it just natural?
Which part of the journey? What do you? All of
the beginning, all of it, yes.
One more time. You're saying, was it hard or was it natural? Like, was it arduous? Is that the question?
Yeah. Was it really difficult for you?
Yes and no. I think there is a part of me that a lot of that stuff was really painful and it was really difficult. And I am oftentimes reminded of how that pain still shows up in my life and how it sometimes prevents me from moving forward in the ways I would like to. And at the same time, I don't know, I was resilient, and I had a lot of support. I had community, I had a spiritual community and my faith. I had so many tools to elevate me and to get me through it and to help me heal. And so with all those things, I don't think I knew how hard it was at the same time, if that makes sense. Like when I look at some of my first poetry that I've ever written, I'm like, damn, this shit is depressing. I mean, I definitely was going.
Do you have some of it right now?
I wouldn't be able to easily grab it. I feel like it would take too much time. It's like
No. Why do I?
Listen, we were all emo teenagers, and we don't need to read our emo teenager stuff on air.
What?
Right? I mean, my shit's emo now. It's just a more advanced version of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, more polished version of emo.
But yeah, so I don't know. I guess both. I mean, yeah, it was hard, and then there were things that really helped and made it easy.
Interesting.
So what was the biggest trauma you were able to get over with theater and dance? If you wouldn't mind sharing something personal about yourself.
Like an art trauma, like something that happened that
a trauma that you were able to heal through art. You've given us part of your story, your mother and your father. You know, was there something in art or dance or theater that helped you specifically get over the traumas from the parents?
I mean, I think creating my work helps me heal and helps me like heal from trauma. Like creating my work about it. It's like there's something about, again, getting it out of my body and birthing something so that it's like outside of me, and it's this creative expression that's like something that was ugly that's turned beautiful. That is healing for me. I mean, I feel healed when I share my story through my art.
Okay. Was there a winning of an award that sets you up to the next level of your own self? Was there something in your past from mother and father that's artistically related that helped you next level the youthful you to make sure you kept going up the journey of who you are?
I mean, I wrote this one particular piece about my mom that's really deep and intense and powerful, and it's the one where people, when they remember my show, they're like, oh, I remember that piece. And
what piece was that?
So let me finish my sentences. Yeah, I mean, that was the one. That's the staple one. That's the one that's going to be a big part, a staple in my work. And I got letters in the mail after people saw that piece, after people saw that show. Who writes letters? This was like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something.
Boomers write letters.
No, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I don't know. I've never gotten letters in my life, like that. And I had letters of people telling me like how much that piece moved them or piece of the show. So yeah, that piece was definitely instrumental in not only my personal healing, but knowing that, oh, this is so much bigger than me. Like, you know.
It is. It is. You wouldn't happen to have that piece laying around, would you? I'm just,
on your MacBook Pro that has all your modern works in it.
I might be able to find it, and I'm not even trying to be funny. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
All right, while we're waiting on for her to find it. So everybody that's listening to other stations at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Periscope, or any other station in which you are listening, you can go to zoom.us and put in the meeting number 911-001-1974, and you can come and join the Zoom room. The Zoom room is where we take questions from the audience and only from the Zoom room. You can also dial in via the phone number there. All right, let's get back to Tatiana and see if she has been able to find her video,
the poem. So unfortunately, while you guys did that screen, it overcame my screen and I couldn't look anymore.
Well, you could just minimize the Zoom screen.
I tried. I don't know why it wasn't working, but
so while she's doing that, I just wanted to ask Andrew, you found it?
I believe I did.
Oh, well, I'll shut up then.
Oh my goodness.
Well, give her a second. Give her a second to prepare, David.
I mean, whatever.
No,
Let's
give her
do it. Yeah, give her a second.
Okay. Yeah. So, what did you want to say, David?
A lot of people don't realize the power of words. Whole genres have been established upon them. I was going to actually ask Tatiana before she began, what is the difference between a poem like a soliloquy and the spoken word? What is the difference? Because a lot of people don't know what the difference is.
Good statement.
For some reason, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I meant to actually do some research so I could properly answer that question. And I don't know that I can help you. Um, I feel like there's more form. There's more like rules around poetry and how it's supposed to be written, and there's a lot more freedom in spoken word. That's like my sense of and my experience with it. And it almost feels like spoken word can almost feel not like a conversation, but just feels more open and free. But maybe there's someone who's listening. If you guys know, feel free to put it in the chat.
In my view, there's a precognition factor to spoken word if you're doing it on the fly, as well as the agenda and strategy behind the nature of what you're doing. Whereas poetry, like you said, has a structure and a format, and for it to follow an agenda may not always fit with the structure. Thus, you can't rhyme all the time, or you have to be stuck to this pentameter or whatsoever, even though you're writing in a style. Spoken word gives you a freedom to have a subtle agenda for whatever it is that you're trying to put forward.
I tend to think of it more as spoken word is more of a stream of consciousness, right? Where you have a flow that is happening, which is coming from inside. It's the river from inside. When it is that you're writing poetry, yes, you have that river, but you have to abbreviate it to pay attention to structure. Because let's face it, your mind does not work in iambic pentameter. It just doesn't.
Nope.
But spoken word does. It has its own flow and ebbs and flows and so on. So
yeah, I do also know the way that it's presented. There is usually somewhat of a certain kind of tone that and cadence that you hear a lot when people share spoken word versus poetry. That's,
okay.
All right, we doing this piece or what?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
I haven't said this piece in years. We will find out what it is. You made me love you. That's what
David, let's turn off her camera so it's just her on the front of the show here.
I got it. We're off.
Okay, we're good.
Go ahead.
I knew before they cut the umbilical cord that you had detached yourself from me. Perhaps that's why I could not drink mother's milk directly. Suckling seemed too intimate for such mixed emotions already exposed. They say even at birth, babies can feel their mother's intentions, whether she is happy, scared, content. And people ask me, what was it like being raised by an alcoholic drug addict mom? And I tell them, I remember laughing. Late curfews, playing cards, chutes and ladders, Candyland, you and your friends drinking and snorting sugar, which was a little odd, but still, you prayed with me every night. You held me in your arms. And it wasn't until you got sober that things got really scary. You, 30-year-old child, just beginning to feel for the first time. See, it's easy to deal with the pain when it's constantly being numb, but now you were facing reality, and I was an easy target for the shame, for the fear, the regret. Disrespect dirtied your foul mouth like a garbage can that just kept overflowing. You little bitch, I'll send you away to boarding school where you really belong. Where I really belong? I was a good girl. I got good grades. I was traveling the world, spreading messages of oneness and universal peace. I could not relate in my own home. My father abandoned me physically. You left me emotionally, without siblings, without cousins around, alone in an empty apartment where I fed myself Kraft macaroni boxes for dinner and watched TV like it was my best friend. Me and Mr. Ed and I Dream of Jeannie, my only company. Mother, sister, friend, enemy. Screaming harsh melodies at the top of your lungs, defiling, cursing. 5 minutes later, don't walk out the door before telling me you love me. You never know when we're gonna go. Fine, I love you. Are you happy now? Door slams after empty words are guilted into speaking. I cried so hard outside our front door, I was sure all the neighbors heard, my delicate soul trying to escape from this hell. One thing I knew, you always had my back. And this simple fact was the one binding thread that held us together. Like 3 years old, I accidentally took adult medication that almost killed me, screaming on a hospital bed as nurses poked me with endless needles because they could not find my vein. And even though you had past experience, they wouldn't let you try. But you disobeyed the law, pushed them out of the way, and found my vein on the first attempt and saved my life. Like fourth grade principal yelling out of control for things I didn't even do, but you came to my rescue, put him in his place. Like when you slapped that girl in the face for disrespecting us, showing her disapproval with vicious eyes for your Oreo daughter. I didn't understand the complexity at the time, but I knew somehow that you loved me. You made me love you. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. You made me love you. And all the time you knew it. I guess you always knew it. But there were times, dear, you made me feel so sad. 8 years old, I remember singing the song with Granny in the car. Oldies was our thing since Granny's radio got stolen. She taught me every song from the 50s she could remember, and it helped me feel better in moments like this. Tears streaming down my face, I wished another mother could take your place, but still, I loved you. Even though I had more home-cooked meals when a man was around, still, I loved you. Even though dyeing your hair came first before homework, which I actually wanted to do, still, I loved you. And then one day you prayed to the Creator to show you what you could not see. And you prayed that she would mend our hearts so that we could love each other better, even the damaged parts of ourselves. And you prayed and you prayed and you prayed so hard with sincere sorrow, a flawless faith, and a deep desire to know and understand the truth. And during your meditation, you began to transform out of your body into mine. You became me. And you could feel my heart, my little girl heart, scared, terrified of this monster of a mother. And you began to trace these moments, these horrific moments that you chose to forget, that you always had an excuse for, like being a single mother with your own dreams and your own desires. And you gave many of them up to raise me. So I had to give up pieces of myself, rush through my childhood so that I could be a mother and your mother too. And you began to remember details of this painful past. I felt cells shifting in my body to a higher frequency. The first day you genuinely said, I'm sorry. Not the old sorries always followed by excuses, but the kind of sorry you spoke to me on that beautiful sunny day when you looked into my eyes and reached into my soul. Because now I can feel you with warm hands, holding up the light to my heart. And I don't know what happened to the mother I grew up with. Someone must have vanished her in a faraway place, because you are new, like fresh flowers blooming in the spring, with 23 years of sobriety, 11 years bulimia free. Your life's work is saving lives and finding at least one new friend a day to donate to my Kickstarter site. You are better than cupcakes. You give me the high without the crash, and you faced our wounds simply by telling the truth, humbling yourself to the universe. And I admire your courage, allowing our story to be told. Empowerment is one of the greatest gifts you've given us. It has saved us. It has saved us. Expanding, opening, connecting to life, chances, amber dreams, lavender fields, and sunflowers smiling across the way. I never thought I would see this day, but here it is. I'm looking at it. I'm staring straight into it in awe, disbelief of the relief that we are breathing into this moment where space was finally created to heal.
Beautiful.
Sorry, I forgot how long that was.
Absolute beauty. Absolute beauty. Soul inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's not often I'm speechless. I am now.
I see that. You go ahead and just sit in it. No rush.
How long did that take you to write?
A lot of my work doesn't take me long to write. It usually just flows right out. I mean, and then it's always a process of going back to clean it up. I mean, I feel like you can clean up stuff the rest of your life. I'm always looking at old poems like, oh, let me take that line out. So I feel like I'm always editing, but as far as the main, it just came right out.
The same way with me is so much of my stuff comes out it's 97% done on the first try. And the rest is it's just getting the punctuation and accentuations of the idea just right. So you're imparting to a person a lasting memory. Because you have several spots in there where you've imparted a lasting memory.
What do you mean by that?
When you're talking like, the mother grown up 23 years later, getting rid of the drugs and the bulimia and all that stuff, you tell so much story with just a few set of words, which creates a long-lasting memory.
There's also an embedded vibration in words that people can understand. I think a lot of people are touched by your words because they have issues with their mothers. A lot of them. That is a major issue in today's world. People have lost connection with their parents, whether it be the father or the mother, or whether it be the mother or the mother. They lose the connection. And that is, as I said, is an essential connection. And when you lose that, you are literally, for want of a better word, depending on the age that you are at, handicapped. You're handicapped in relationships, you're handicapped in other ways. So people, we really should not underestimate the impact of parenting. Okay, so Tatiana.
100%.
So Tatiana, with regard to the poems that you create, do you perform them in like live performances?
Rarely, but sometimes it happens.
It just happens arbitrarily, or when somebody kind of soft bullies you into sure.
Yeah, like this is good. This is good. I mean, I haven't shared my poems and I honestly can't remember. So, thanks for inviting me to do this because it's reminded me how much I like writing and sharing work. I don't do it often. I mean, it's I perform here and there, and even the performances are different. I mean, sometimes I'm hired to dance at a festival and it's like traditional West African dance and it's not necessarily my own personal work, or sometimes, but yeah, that's why I like to create and produce my own shows or collaborate with artists so that I get to share this work here and there, I'd like to do it more often. That is my goal. That's something I'm working on right now, is to make it a more regular occurrence. So
no, what are you doing next Tuesday? Come on. Okay, so we have another show. So anyway, like start the show with a spoken word. Okay, so my what I would put out there with regard to your performances and so on. I know that you know the guys from Ecstatic Dance LA. So tell us about your community down in LA, the artist community, the performance community, the holistic and healing arts community.
I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's artists I know that I just grew up literally taking dance classes with. Again, that's how me and Natasha met. We met in a dance class when we were at SMC together. And there's a lot of there's a few different companies I've been a part of, and then when I went to UCLA, I was a dance major, so there's a lot of artists in that community that I've kept in touch with. We support each other's work, or and then as far as the healing arts community, same. I mean, I just, I find out about teachers, you learn about them. I take their workshops, and then you meet people in those classes and stuff, and you stay friends. And like I mentioned, I've worked with a few different organizations that have hired me to do healing work. So then there's relationships that are built, with those people. There's so many avenues and ways that I've been able to like meet people and grow community. And I'm so grateful for it. it makes it easier to when I am ready and I'm like, oh, it's time to put on a show or it's time to have an offering. It's nice to know that there's people there who benefit from it and because they keep showing up and they keep telling me how great it is, even though I have a hard time believing people, but that's my own work to do.
So I was a humanities and arts major myself. So what do you say to people who are saying that the arts are dying, that it's not a marketable subject area to be in, that it's not a rewarding career?
Those are the techies saying that.
I'm like, who's saying that?
Exactly. The techies. The techies are saying that.
I mean, here's what I would say to anybody who said that. First of all, F you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would say, okay, I mean, everyone has their opinions, but you know what matters to me in the end of the day? And what I think matters is that everyone is showing up. It just matters that everybody is showing up. And however you're supposed to show up, however you're being called to show up, whether it's through being an artist or not, that's important because every single person is important. Right. And we have so many issues in the world because people are afraid to show up, me being one of them at times. And I know how powerful that is. So I would say, don't listen to people who say shit like that. And if you have a calling, figure it out. Do it. Believe in yourself.
Excellent.
The other thing there's a great generational divide in supporting arts. Example, to getting inner city arts or suburban arts versus what the boomer generation wants to support. That's the generational separation. That it was these sets of things that were run by the 40s, 50s, and 60s that were paid by the peoples from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Now, the people from the 70s, 80s, and 90s are still doing the stuff from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So they're 60 years behind in supporting the modern arts. This has been ongoing. Every generation suffers from this fact. To get the older generation that has money to support the newer generation, to continuously have creative arts in high schools, middle schools, freshmen, colleges, universities, and they always suffer the accountant's pen of deletion first. Why is that so?
I can definitely speak to this. I want to just jump in here because I was an arts major and I used to perform. Let's not go there, right? I'm an arts major. I used to perform, and then later on in life, I was still into the arts, but I ended up in business and law. Okay. I ended up in business and law. No, I did not sell out. Before anybody says that in the general.
No, David, you bought into a career. You didn't sell out.
Right. So I kind of bought into the career, but
listen, a lot of artists could use a business side. So
that's exactly my point. That's exactly what I was going through, and it's actually interesting because the theaters that I worked with and supported, I suddenly became the business consultant for them. And one of the things, Andrew, to speak to what you were saying, one is that you're putting on a performance and it wants to be modern and you want to do a fusion something, but then your audience, especially in places like Michigan, Bible Belt places, your audience wants to see like traditional classical ballet. I'm like, what? Right. We're throwing everything at you but the kitchen sink. So what we found that we had to do was actually create sections within the performance which catered to them, okay? And then you did your fusion thing and so on. And then they came and they realized, oh, this fusion thing is really pleasant. And like, yeah, duh. But the mind is so narrow when it comes to certain kinds of arts, depending on the audience that you are trying to market to. It's a little bit different. So I would just advise artists and performers out there and creative professionals, be mindful of your marketing campaigns and how you bring stuff across. Okay?
Yeah.
All you need to do is set your marketing campaigns and words to dance, and you'll know if it works or not. If you can't set your marketing to dance and music, something's missing.
Mm-hmm. And with everything that I said earlier, I just want to say, like, look, it has not been the easiest road for me as an artist. I'm not saying this because I think everyone should respond to their calling, that it is easy. But I do think that when you are in alignment, the doors will open and support will come.
Except for the artist community, doors are always like a revolving door. You get in, you're right back out. You get in, you're right back out. Or you get in through one and there's another revolving door and another revolving door and another revolving door that's asking you to slightly conform to get through each door.
And you know something, Andrew? I want to say something here because it's been a bit of a peeve for me. Now, I would go out of my way to see an artistic performance. I've actually bought a plane ticket to go see something that I wanted to see, okay? In another country. I traveled 3,000 miles to see an artistic performance. What the internet and the digital life has done to the artistic community has been an issue. But I think that a certain amount of adaptation needs to be had here, okay? But there is a difference between seeing a performance that's live and something that is just digitized, okay? All right? Because the performance that's live, even the mistakes add to the value. Okay? Even the flaws and the mistake add to the value. Have you ever been to your kids' pantomime, for those of you who have kids? I just want to say a few things there. The mistakes make you laugh. You enjoy the mistakes. You enjoy the transitioning, people putting effort into teaching you something, entertaining you, right? When you watch a digitized performance with the edits and stuff like that, it's not the same thing. So I would like you guys to, if you haven't, or if you have never been to a performance, try it once. See what the difference is.
Oh my God. So different.
Mm-hmm.
It is different.
So I want to talk one more thing about the generational challenges that artists who are looking for monetary support. Now, we've all seen the proverbial red dot on the wall that sells for $5 million, or the 2 orange squares with a slash through it that suddenly means something because somebody put some words to it. Artists at that level that are, 2 orange squares and a dot artists, they're in a effete community who is supporting effete artists. In effete meaning higher crust people who only sell to higher crust people because they're using it for insurance money to cover more money up. The real artists, the ones that are in the galleries every day that talk to you when you come up to go look at your piece, those are the people that really need the money. Those are the ones that need the support during that creational phase to go from oil painting to pottery to statues to combining all 3 into a piece.
Yeah.
Next question.
I ended my last show like, anybody want to support my work? Holler at your girl. You want to see more of this? Because everyone always said that to me. You should do this more. Why don't you have more? And I'm like, do you know how much work it took to put this together? Yeah, if I had more resources and I had more support, it'd be easier to like.
Too many artists all too often go down to begonomics. Mm-hmm. And that does not really provide for the soul when you're constantly begging to get money.
Yeah, right. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
There's a way to turn it around and put happiness behind it, but so many artists are literally stuck in the business model of begonomics.
I have to speak to this. I have to weigh in on this one. Part of my business is to not only assist esoteric people, but artists as well. I know some of you are purists, right? But there is something about survivability that has to happen. You could write the best poem, and if nobody knows you exist, then it's just a poem in the dark somewhere, collecting dust. So what I try to get people to do is understand that parts of your creation can remain authentic and pure. The other part, you do what you need to do to support your art habit, okay? You do what you need to do to support your art habit, all right? Because it's an addiction, it is, All right. Once you start writing, you're never going to stop. Tatiana, never going to stop. You could try, you could become a lawyer, you could become a business person, but it's still going to be there. Okay. You'd be in a courtroom and then you'd be like suddenly breaking out into poetic.
You'll be the dancing prosecutor.
Right. So my suggestion, that's the prosecutor, correct. Right. So my advice to artists, because we have to give advice on both sides of the fence, the audience and also the artist, is that there must be some part of your plan which involves a business purely mercenary. I need money to get this, my addiction. I need to keep it going. Right. So there's some part of it that you need to do a mercenary project. You do need to do a mercenary project, and it feeds what you're going to do. Because what Andrew was saying about the begonomics, not acceptable. You guys are too valuable to society to just die away in the dark. There are lots of artists that have been out there that have just faded away, and they should not have faded away. Okay.
You asked me earlier, like, who supported me in this journey, and one person that I did not mention who has also played a huge role is my husband. And what you were talking about made me think of that, because I was the one that was like out of the habit of creating art. I was like, I want to do this show, and it's gonna be like, I was all in the creative space, but as a business guy, he's like, these numbers don't make sense. I'm just like, but it's not about that. I need to put the work out. And he's like, no, we're gonna let these numbers make sense. Like, and so that's been really helpful. And now, like, I mean, I've learned so much from him. And so when I put things together, I'm like, oh wait, do the numbers make sense? Like, and yeah, it's really important to have that balance, to have that support.
Do you guys have any of you guys seen Childish Gambino's This Is America?
Yes. Outstanding.
All right. I was actually surprised. I'm like, I don't listen to no more rap videos. I don't want to see any chick shaking her ass and people throwing money into the air. I don't need to see any more of that shit. And then this guy came out with, and I'm like, is this happening?
Yes. He next leveled gangster rap.
Yeah, he next leveled the rap game, period, because it was expressive. He added dance in there. He gave a message that you could not ignore. So I'm just saying to the artists out there that it is possible to enter the digital community and still win. How much money did you make out of that video? Just the video alone made money. Okay, when he put it out there, right? And it established him as an artist in that genre. So what I would suggest that you guys do is that you make at least one Childish Gambino video. It's not going to be easy, but you can express yourself in different ways. You can. It doesn't always have to be some sort of purist mentality. Put one video out there, let it support your artist addiction. Okay. What else is there of any significance with regard to artists? I know that you have to go very soon.
So, hold on, I want to chime in here 1 second. And it's the next level from economics and understanding that a lot of artists become artists out of rebellion from stuff going on around them. And there's reasons why they don't want to write business plans, or they write a business plan in fucking crayon and oil paint. And you bring it to a professional who goes, oh, what is this art piece? And they're like, it's my business plan. And then you're looking at the crayon and the oil paint and the numbers don't add up, just like Tatiana was talking about. And you have to look at the rebellious side of you who does not want to conform to the business side and determine if you truly want to be an artist who's going to have some money to make at it, you must allow a synthesis and fusion of your business and artistic self, a classy fusion.
Yep. I mean, I got on board right away. It didn't take me long. I feel like I actually do have a natural business side. It's just that in that moment, that moment was so big to me that
it changed.
Kind of, it got smaller. But oh yeah, I always have all kinds of hats on.
But you know what I'm talking about. Plenty of other people. You can just see that their rebel won't let them because it's conforming to the business, to the man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're on mute, David.
You're muted, David.
Childish Gambino definitely did not conform to the man.
No.
For sure.
Oh no. He beat the man. He beat up the man and kicked him in the nuts and took his wallet.
And that video was entertaining as hell. So it is possible to be commercial and authentic at the same time. Okay, and I just wanted to put that out there for other people who would be listening and so on. I also think in terms of the guys from Ecstatic Dance, they took DJing and made it into a healing art. They took a partying and made it into a healing art, right? So yes, commercially authentic. I like that. I like that. Concordia. Consularis. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Existential crisis counselor.
Right. So commercially authentic. It is possible to be commercially authentic. So that is actually a very. Are there any other? Is there any other advice you have for people who want to get back into creative arts?
I mean, I feel like this sounds like such basic advice and it may not sound helpful, but all I can think of right now is to just to do the little things. Sometimes I think we get overwhelmed by the big picture, like, okay, why do I want to get back into the arts? Well, what I really want to do is do this book that I've wanted to publish for years, or this show, or whatever. And then sometimes I think people get so overwhelmed by the big idea that they don't take the little steps. Mm-hmm. But if you take the little steps, it's those little steps that remind you how much you love this thing, how much it's a natural part of you, how much easier it actually is than you've made it. Because once you're in the zone, that nurtures you and it feeds you and propels you, and then it just gets easier and easier. So my advice would be to just start taking the little steps, whatever that is for you. If you have a book to write, just mark a time every day, or whatever kind of time you have. You feel like on Mondays from this hour, even if it's 1 hour, mm-hmm. I don't even know if I'm going to write, but I'm not going to allow myself to do anything else. I'm going to shut down my phone. I'm going to shut down everything. And if I just stare out this window just to allow myself to dream, and if I write 2 sentences in that hour, like, give yourself permission for taking steps, no matter how small they may seem, and then watch those steps continue to grow the more that you commit to that practice. It's a muscle. It's like anything. And the more you do it, the stronger it gets, the easier it becomes, the more it just becomes a natural part of you.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
The pathway to success is to look at our past as a series of victories through hindsight. So foresight into our next set of victories is what's motivating us to create.
And last thing I want to say is study yourself. I think people get so caught up in what they haven't done that they forget all that they've already done.
That's right.
I mean, when I apply for things and I have to show my resume, I'm like, oh shit, I've done a lot. I'm always thinking of the things I haven't done, but it's like that gives me energy and gives me inspiration. So look at everything that you've also already done. Go all the way back, as far back as you can. When I was in junior high, I performed at the talent show, and that's when I shared my first poem. And then, everything you can think of, study yourself and get in tune with who you are and your art, and what have you always wanted to say? What have you been saying? What have you been doing? I think that's important that we remember what we've already done, because oftentimes it's already a lot.
Yes, and art can come in many different forms. Okay. There's a part of my life when I wanted to forget anything resembling art. Okay. I wanted to forget, but then you leave me alone with Photoshop and things start to happen. Right. So and they start to happen. So that is something that will, if you started it, if there's a spark in you, it will never die. It never will. It will never die in you. You may think, oh, now I have 3 children later, and I have a wife, and I have a minivan. What did I put it? And it's dead. And then you go and you just see some people dancing in the park or practicing, and then you're like, oh, I want to do that. So that's something that never leaves you.
You will always have a flint and steel. Okay, sometimes our flint and steel's like those 4th of July sparkers, and you've got lots of spark coming off of you. But every now and then, you've got to go back to the old caveman flint and steel inspiration. Tink. Oh, look at that. I got the fire going. Or tink, 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 tink. It takes some effort to get that inspiration flowing.
Yep. Tatiana, you have any more words for us?
No, I mean, and just trust yourself. Like any inspiration that comes to you, you know, everyone's path is so unique. It's so different. And while I think it is inspiring to hear other people's journeys, just know that no one is going to have the journey you have. And so trust your inspiration, trust what you're supposed to do. If someone tells you to listen to a specific podcast, but you're like, I'm feeling like I actually need to listen to this one, just every little thing we do is a step that leads to something, but it leads to something great when you trust your inner knowing and you trust your intuition. So that's my last advice for now, is to just trust yourself. And yeah.
Do you want to give people a way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah. One way, as far as like, for those who are on social media, Instagram is probably the main platform I'm on the most. So you can just find me through my name, which is Tatiana Zamir. Tatiana. Last name is Zamir. And also just subscribing to my newsletter is probably the best way to find out about what's going on. So if I'm, you know, offering online classes, or there's a performance coming up, or a retreat somewhere in the world, yeah, newsletter is best. I don't send them out often, so don't worry, I won't like blow up your email. But again, it's TatianaZamir.com. You can just subscribe from my website.
David, do you have any last words you want to use?
No, you guys can find me at info@unifiedhealthsystems.com. And yeah, I actually do read my email a lot.
Okay. This coming Friday, we will be having our ongoing comedy show in which David will be doing the first half hour from the bathtub as promised last comedy show. David will not be selling his bathwater.
No, I will not be selling the bathwater. What the hell? That still has me traumatized. Like, wow.
If you have not listened to any of the comedy shows, you can go onto the YouTube channel, the Galactic Historian YouTube channel, and check out the last 3 weeks of shows that we've been doing. Every show we get stronger and stronger, and we leave no sacred cows unslayed. And I believe this next one, we were going to be slaying some technological sacred cows along with some other religious sacred cows.
Oh, I cannot wait for that.
Yes. And then everyone will be back this coming Thursday and this coming Friday for Adventures into Reality call-in show. Thursday, 6 p.m. to 8, and Friday, comedy shows, 6 p.m. to 8 at this station, this channel, this frequency. Make sure you hit like and share, and we will see everybody on the next show.
Okay.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge, it's the holy grail. Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.